Spurgeon here with RevZilla, and today we're going to take a look at the Leatt GPX 4.5 helmet available at RevZilla.com. So what you're going to see on the table in front of me is the new GPX 4.5 from Leatt. Now this is going to be the entry-level version of the 5.5. And when the 5.5 came out, it was actually going to be my favorite dirt bike helmet. I really love the technology that Leatt put into place, and they made their helmet smaller. So what we're seeing with the 4.5 is they're going to give you a lot of that same level of protection, a lot of the same creature comforts, but they're going to do it in a thermoplastic shell. And this is now going to come in around the $230 price point for solids and around the $240 price point for graphics. But really what we're going to talk about in this detailed breakdown video is what you can expect from this helmet, starting with the shell and construction. So like I said, it's a thermoplastic shell. 3 different shell sizes are available, and it is going to carry a DOT safety rating. What you're going to notice on this one, 6 intake vents. So you are losing a little bit of the ventilation off of the 5.5, 4 exhaust vents, but this is still going to be an extremely lightweight helmet. 2 pounds, 10 ounces in a large when we threw this on the scale. So that's a massive reduction in weight versus some of the other manufacturers that we're seeing out there. And we're going to discuss the technology in the ways that Leatt is able to do that. But before we get into that, the first thing I want to hit on is going to be the actual interior shape of this. So whenever you're trying on a helmet, it's really important to match the shape of the helmet to the shape of your head. And this is going to be an intermediate oval shape. And what that means, a little bit longer front to back, a little narrower on the side of the head, and it should work for the majority of the American market. And this is a change over the very first 5.5 that came out. When we saw that released, it was a little bit on the neutral side. Leatt has since revised their fit, and we're now getting into a little bit more of an intermediate oval, so this should work for the majority of you riders out there. So talking about all the way they've managed to reduce size and really kind of reduce weight with this, it really has to do with how they've incorporated the EPS liner into the shell. So the shell is roughly 10% smaller than the average dirt bike helmet out there. And the way they were able to do this is they actually inject the EPS into the shell. So they construct the shell first, and then you're going to have the EPS is going to be injected in, and they're going to use a dual cone technology. So you're going to have a denser layer on the outside and a less dense layer on the inside, and it actually fits together almost like cones fitting together. And that way you basically can get a smaller shell out of it while still getting the same level of impact protection on the inside. Now the other thing that Leatt's going to give you is they're going to incorporate the 360 turbine technology. So when we pull the insides out, we'll show you the little rubberized turbines that are in there. And essentially what you're getting is a helmet that's going to give you a 30% reduction in concussional impact, as well as a 40% reduction in rotational force. So you're getting a helmet that, because of its size and the technology incorporated in, it's going to be providing a much safer experience for you than the traditional EPS liners that we're seeing from a lot of OEMs out there. Now, before we get into the insides of the helmet, I do want to point out some of the things that you're not getting with the 4.5 over the 5.5, and the main is going to be the vent scheme. So you notice that you're not going to have the same level of ventilation at the very top of the brow on this. You're also going to lose some of the larger intake honeycomb vents on the back. So if we spin this around to the rear of the helmet, you notice the rear of the helmet's actually shaped a little bit differently. The shell is a little bit of a different shell, and you're not getting the massive amount of venting on the back of this. So if venting is very important for you, that's where you would consider bumping up to something, excuse me, like the 5.5. What you are going to get are some of the creature comforts, like you'll see on the bottom over here. You're still going to get the incorporation for the hydration tube. So you can still run the hydration tube up into the helmet and kind of incorporate it that way, which is much more of a streamlined design than something that we're seeing from a lot of other manufacturers out there. Taking a look at the inside. So we talked about the creature comforts from the inside of this. So you do have the emergency quick release cheek pads, and if you want to, you can pull those right out. One of the things that Leatt does that I really like is they actually have a finished interior for the chin bar. Just adds a little bit of creature comfort to this, and it just kind of adds a little bit of class. It gives the helmet more of a high-end feel. You'll also notice on the left side, you're going to have a little bit of a strip here that you can run for incorporating that hydration tube. So there's a little bit of a Velcro tab. You can run the hydration tube right through there and then run it right up to your mouth. And then that's how it incorporates from the inside. It goes right behind the cheek pad. And if we pull the interior liner out, it's going to be brow mounted. I like the brow mounts on these because it doesn't give you any kind of pressure points along your forehead. And you notice lots of areas for ventilation within the brow on the liner for this. But the real story is going to be if we take a look at the inside. So We talked about those turbines earlier. You're going to notice that you have these little rubberized circles on the inside of the helmet, and these are their 360 Turbine Technology, and this adds for just a little bit of that extra rotational protection. You're going to see those massive channeled cutouts within the EPS liner for ventilation, and you'll also notice this is going to be quick eject ready. So if you want to, you can install the quick eject system, and that's going to allow you to get the helmet off in the case of an emergency or an injury where you'd be laying, down and somebody else would be taking the helmet off for you. So they've really packed a huge wallop of comfort and protection into a helmet that's coming in around the $230 price point. And like I said, when the GPX 5.5 came out, it easily became my favorite recommendation for folks looking for a dirt bike helmet just because of the level of technology and sophistication that Leatt was putting into their lids. And now what you're getting is you're getting that same level of sophistication in a helmet that's coming in around the $230 price point. So for those of you out there looking for a new dirt bike helmet, you want to consider something a little bit different. You want to make sure you're being protected, but you also want a mass amount of ventilation. Honestly, I think Leatt is really going to be leading the charge for what we're seeing moving forward from dirt bike helmets. And something like the GPX 4.5 is really going to put that technology into the hands of a lot more riders with the lower price point. So if you want to hear what other riders have to say, now would be the time to go ahead and click the info button on your desktop or mobile device, which will allow you to read other rider reviews from folks that are already using a GPX helmet from Leatt to protect their noodle. If you have additional questions for one of our gear geeks, you can always give them a shout at 877-792-9455 or simply shoot over an email to cs@RevZilla.com. Thank you for joining us for this look at the Leatt GPX 4.5. I'm Spurge. Enjoy the ride.